beginning our trustee meeting for the Village of North Bennington. We will start with the first item on the agenda, which is to acknowledge public attendance and amend the agenda as required. I notice a fair number of people in the audience. Do we have anyone that wants to bring up an issue or discuss?
I'd just like to make a statement.
Okay, can you just come forward so you're closer to this thing so people on the and then state your name for our clerk.
I'll have to sit close, I can't read.
That's okay.
I'm Ed Corey. In the back, Margaret's my wife. Maya is her caregiver. My son Keith and his best friend B.G. Stewart. And I would just like to explain about the Corey Acres development. At 19, I bought 2 parcels of land off Mechanic Street. Parcel 1 was a 50-foot by 600-foot strip for road access. Parcel 2 was 9 acres in the back that went down to the railroad tracks. All was bought from the Stanwoods. After 40 years of building houses, over 100 in land development, we made Corey Acres our last start in 2000 when Keith got out of high school. We've worked together ever since. It took many years of building, and I feel blessed. We were at Corey Acres when Margaret had her seizure in 2021 that left her in a coma at Albany Medical Center, not opening her eyes, moving a finger or toe for 7 days. 14 more days in Albany, and then 150 days in care homes. She could only come home to Corey Acres since we can drive in and she can get out with no stairs. Our caregiver, Meyer, gives her daily help, and I have been able to keep her home for over 2 years. We love the peace and quiet of Corey Acres and just want to be left alone. As Margaret friend Mary Morrissey says, you have found heaven on earth. That's all I got.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have something for the agenda? Okay.
Tim's not on yet, but he is.
Okay.
So
I know that we have another comment that will come on, but they're not on Zoom yet. So when they show up, we'll add them to the agenda. But in the meantime, we will move forward. We'll let our citizens get themselves.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Next thing on the agenda is the review and approval of the minutes from Tuesday, July 11th. Did everyone get a chance to read and review?
I've read them.
Is Matt on?
Matt, did you get a chance? Yes, okay.
All right, so I'll abstain.
Excellent, okay. So I need a motion to approve and a second.
I'll move that we approve the minutes.
All right, that's Ray, thank you. And a second has to come from Matthew. Thank you, Matthew. And we have one abstention when we vote because Scott didn't see them. So can I have all in favor of approving the minutes? That's
Aye.
And then one abstention for Scott. Next, review the monthly warrant and approve payment of bills.
Okay.
Doug.
Yeah. So we'll hit payroll first. So this is the August payroll warrant, which covers the July payroll. Total amount was $12,096.17. Again, it was a regular 2 pay period for the month of July, 1 Aflac. There was 1 additional paycheck for Norm's new part-timer, Larry Telford. Norm can speak to that during his report, but he is the the different name that's on the payroll warrant. So other than that, everything is as it normally would be. So if there's any other questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Otherwise, that's all I have for payroll.
Questions? No?
I'll
All right.
move this warrant, the payroll warrant for $12,096.17.
Okay, we have a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Ray is seconding. Can I have all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Unanimous.
And Lori, what I'll do is I'll have the 3 trustees that are here sign the 3 warrants, and I'll drop them off to you, because I'll have a couple other things for you too. So I'll drop those 3. Next, we had a late July warrant. On the late July warrant, the only items on there that are somewhat out of the ordinary, we have our first West Oil. July was the first budget/pre-buy payment. So we'll see that for the next 10 months, and you'll see the one for August on the next warrant. But July was the first one that we had voted on in the July meeting. The McCullough Library had their first portion of their annual allotment paid out, and the Peckham Industries $9,594.45 gravel, correct, Norm, from Peckham? So that was gravel for the culvert project. So late July warrant is $24,996.11. If there's any other questions, let me know. Otherwise, that's the amount for that one.
The West Oil covers the depot, the firehouse, and the
Garage.
garage.
Yeah, all 3 locations, right? They do.
One payment.
Yep, they do a calculation based on the prior 2 years usage for the 3 locations, figure out, and then so the one payment for the budget plan / pre-buy covers all 3, and then they're on a rotation for delivery.
I'll make a motion to approve the
Okay, so we have a motion
the
from
late
Ray.
July.
And can I get a
Second.
second from Mr. Creedy? And all in favor?
Aye.
You. And moving on to, what else you got?
And now we have the regular August warrant. Total for the August warrant is $44,109.66. The only few items that were larger, the largest on there is K-State Bank, and that is the payment for the fire truck. So that's $28,930.21. Of that, $10,000 comes out of the loan sinking fund. That was from the sale of the old fire truck this one replaced. And that is due in September, and it would be prior to the September warrant. So that's why we have it on this warrant. The other items on there, again, are starting to pay out some of the approved amounts. Bennington County Regional Commission for $5,000, Para and Rec for $3,000. And again, at the bottom, you see the West Oil for $1321. Other than that, everything is, normal items that would be on the warrant. And unless anybody has any other questions, then that's what I have for that one.
What's Viking Civics?
Let's see.
Next to the last.
Yeah.
It's $264. I don't know.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I don't know what it's for, but I can tell you.
It's Highway Department materials.
There you go.
Okay,
Highway materials.
thank
Okay,
you.
can I get a motion for that warrant?
I'll make a motion to approve that one.
Okay, we have Ray, seconded by,
Scott, I
Scott.
second it.
thank you. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, thank you. And that's all you have, right?
That's it for me for now. I'll be
Brilliant.
back up in a little while.
Okay, moving right along. Highway and facilities report.
All right, so we'll start with facilities. In case the fire guy wants to jump in. So we had a meeting at the building the other day. Brought some known professionals that work with that kind of industry with us. Joe McGovern was also there helping represent the village. Got some cracks in the front apron on the concrete, and then got some bricks for repair. I believe you have the concrete
Yes.
thing here. The brick one I just picked up. I I had it in my truck, but it was Monday, I got tied up in my other thing. So to repair the bricks by the doors, you know, remember, they've all got to get ground out, cut out, screwed around there. That's a $4,500 item. And then the chimney is 55. You ever walk by the building and look at the, up on the top and see the chimney, it's pretty bad. So, you know, the apron, we could probably live with, bricks, you know what I mean, starts at the side of the building. I don't know where their budget sits, so we only asked to find the people that we deal with, the contractors that do all the work for the village, and have them submit those prices. Whether we decide, the tax rate and something else. So let's just say, you fix both of these, the chimney is very important, side of the building, maybe we could let that go a little bit. But I would go right after the chimney, I wouldn't screw around with that. You know what I mean, but there's 55, so there's $10,000 right?
Right.
And the concrete is the same way we talked, and, we have a price to put the concrete back the way it's existing right now. And then there's another price to actually extend it to where that seam is, where the water goes down through. I actually think that that's a far better idea to do that. One, just, the texture, and people washing stuff, icing stuff, and, then we can put some drainage in there. It's not, the drainage isn't part of that bid. I would think the village, we would accept that because it's a piece of our infrastructure. But now would be the time to do it, then you can blacktop or concrete to it and have a nice better apron to be able to deal with it. So again, right off the top of my head, I think you're dropping the $20,000 to $25,000 worth of improvements in the building, and I don't know where the budget sits.
Right, because the first one that you had sent out was a little over 11. So that covers the concrete work that you were just talking about?
Yeah, I'd have to read it, because I just forwarded it, because they get a bit busy on my overly road, so I'd have to read it. So I believe he was pricing the apron as it sits. And then it's really, to bring it to that crack, it's doubling it, so, and that, with the price of concrete and jackhammering and stuff, I'd have to read it to make sure that we're talking about the right number, whether it's either 11 or it's 22.
Yeah, because there was two, I'll pull it up real quick, just to,
If it's broken in two pieces, then probably the bigger number is doing the bigger job. Because you add all that rebar, because you can't just pour it like you would your garage. I mean, you'd have to, it's gotta have the rebar in it. It's gotta be matted to deal with the truck that's gonna be driving it.
It's 8 inches thick.
Yeah, it's gotta be pretty thick.
Yeah.
okay, so the estimate from the concrete says, so first one says 5,175, pouring 2 sections of garage apron, 12.6 by 8.8.
Yeah.
Then the second piece of the bid says pouring garage apron, 6,225, 38 by 8 by 8.
Yeah.
So that's everything you said?
Yeah, if you add them all together.
Right.
That would be doing the bigger side.
Doing right, okay.
That's with us excavating, it's
Yes.
not, whatever stone or whatever needs to be put under there. We would, I would almost anticipate under the apron that's existing, it's probably a decent floor, because that was put in the 70s, as far as, what Joe said. Then from there, under the blacktop area of the parking lot, I would anticipate the worst case scenario, because, every time you dig up, it's just, been paved over the material that was there at the time, which is just banked around gravel, so that we need to get excavated out a little bit. But when you're doing it, you dig the ditch, you put the pipe in, and be done with it, and that infrastructure is old through there.
Norm, there's a drain by the side entrance,
By the grassy area,
the
yeah.
grassy area. Would that be dealt with at this
Yes, that
time?
would be replaced.
Good.
That's an old,
Didn't seem to be-
galvanized round cover with no salt, yeah. That
It doesn't seem to be working very well, so,
It actually works. There's a little one, oh, you mean a little teeny 4-inch one?
yes,
Yeah, I mean, that only takes just a smidge of water. It's only a little pipe that runs into the bigger drain.
okay,
You know, could that, well, probably what happened is the one that's there, the existing one might get moved, so it would catch water coming out of that building. It depends on how it's all sloped. We get to really, you know, we get to slope that.
but there would be, the side of the, I'm talking the left side of the building,
You know,
we would be addressing that at the same time.
the round drain that's there, that's definitely, yeah. And there's another one that's in the sidewalk, which is just a little teeny thing like you would have in a garage, with a little piece of 4-inch pipe running into that.
Okay, all right,
And it could be just clogged, we could just need to clean it out.
okay.
So the other 38 feet by 8 feet, that's in front of the
That would be the
entrances for the firehouse.
Yes, that would be an extension on the apron that's there now.
Yeah, okay.
That would bring it to that seam. And then, you know, eventually, if you ever pave that road, we'd have a nice
Okay.
spot.
Okay, well, seeing as we've kind of like done the fire department issue at the same time as the highway, do you guys want to put in your input right now?
The only other thing that I'd add on to that one right there is we have to priority, is it the concrete work we want to do? Or is it that furnace that we need to replace? So we really got to think about that and see which one is the more important.
The piece about the furnace, Mary is still working on grants. She's got through the first phase of the grant, the planning grant piece. So it's one of those things where, you know, if you piece it together for now, might be able to get a whole new
System.
HVAC system, top to bottom, through the grant program, which the village would never be able to afford, you know, without doing the grant work. Doing, you know, a somewhat of a newer one is gonna deplete a lot of funds, and you're kind of 50-50. You're better than what you are right now, but you're not as good as what could get with the grant. So it is one of the, yeah.
I would say structurally, the furnace is the first time I heard about that, so, but as a homeowner, you know, furnace first, chimney second, you know, cosmetic third, you know, and the apron is, you know, it's cracked when you drive over it. The facade got some cracks and waterproof, you know, that, you know, it needs to be done, but it's not that they couldn't wait another year. You know, I would certainly get the chimney like that, you know.
Do you agree?
But, you know, if you got a burner problem,
The furnace has been,
the furnace is.
It doesn't sound very often.
We know about your furnace. But if we get this grant set up, then that'll be taken care of. So
Right, that's priority one with the grant is that. And it's, in general terms, it's a municipal grant, so it can address multiple village buildings, so it would also look at this, but the number one item is the furnace and firehouse. That would be the first. The other good piece of the grant, if Mary's able to get it through, is it also could address your windows. So that would obviously help the furnace too, because you guys know better than we do how inefficient those windows are and how many you have of them. So that's kind of, you know, Mary's focus for grants is, and she's working with the BCRC already.
Hey, Doug,
They've done the first. Yes, Matt.
we did a massive replacement of windows maybe 10 years ago. Are you saying that all the windows in the firehouse are substandard?
Well, I know when Mary had when she was working with the company that does the interior, the efficiency.
Yeah.
They have the blow test or whatever it's called that they can put there. And I know they were saying that they don't need to be necessarily replaced because of deterioration or anything, but they're not as efficient as one would hope in a building that size.
I think, Matthew, what we're trying to do is create more efficiency in the building, which would mean just filling in the gaps and sealing things and just making everything just a little more airtight, so that when they heat the building, they're not heating half the outdoor.
Right, but I think the windows aren't causing an influx of air. It's maybe around the windows.
Do you think it's the seal, guys?
He's right there, and I'm trying to remember how long ago, but all the windows upstairs were replaced.
Yeah, they're thermopane.
Yes.
I looked at them last.
They're double or triple.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's right.
Okay, so I think we're more talking about just creating a better and more efficient building, not necessarily replacing the windows, but making them work better.
Envelope issues other than window per se.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
And also the delivery system for the heat,
Right.
not just the boiler, but the distribution system.
Which I believe that's what Mary said the grant would have. Like I say, it's not just the replacement of the furnace, it's the whole heating system.
And there could be, I don't know what the insulation situation is, but in the upper floor under the ceiling, but I imagine that could be improved.
so further discussion on firehouse issues.
So the question about these bits of concrete that we're talking about here is whether we need to do them right now.
I think the discussion is more whether we should tackle the chimney right away. Is that something that should be
Yeah,
done?
well, I think chimney, I haven't looked at it, but I'll take Norm's word for it.
Yeah, so the question is, how imminent is the chimney? How imminent is the apron? Do you
Right.
guys?
If it was me, I would just do the chimney and furnace
chimney
for right
aprons?
now.
Okay. Everyone seems to be
Well,
on the
thanks
same
for-
page.
Well, they do, I think we're the big, you know, the next piece of this puzzle is all these things that we're talking about, right? When we go back to the original apron, right?
Yeah.
You know, not improving it, just replacing what's there.
Right.
Because when it's put in, you know, technology is different now, so it's, you know, it's moving a little bit, and it's hitting the brick, and the brick is breaking, you know. So to get it with the tax rate and the budget, you know, and get a plan, you know what I mean, that you know, these things aren't gonna go away. There are some things that take priority over something else, but, you know, we need to be able to deal with this. And again, it's not uncommon to throw, you know, 15% on all these numbers if you're going to budget it for the next year to make sure, because, you know, stuff, you know, sometimes it's going crazy, right? And hopefully we're coming in under where we would plan.
Yeah.
But that's, you know, wherever their house fund, this and that is, you know, so I don't know if the decision needs to be completely made tonight. You know, we can certainly be forward to go ahead with the chimney, we could get that fixed. Because again, they're been different pieces.
So I think.
But make a plan, you know, whether, you know, we can go right back after the down easy.
So I
Is
think,
the concrete damaging the brick? Is that what you're implying?
It's moving, yes. Yeah, but not like it's an emergency,
It's
oh my
disturbing.
goodness, we gotta fix it.
It's disturbing the footing under the brick?
No, it's on the side.
On the side.
There's not, there wasn't an expansion joint.
Okay.
So as the frost and lifts up a little bit, you know, over the years, it's created a crack and water gets in it and makes it a little worse. So it's just traveling a little bit. And then as it travels, it doesn't have the expansion joint, so then it hits the brick and then.
Can someone refresh me on what the price on the chimney was?
so the chimney piece alone was right around $5,500, $5,500. So what I was going to suggest, you know, even before
We don't have that in front of us. That's from whom?
Norm just got that right there. So we do have it, we haven't seen it.
Okay.
So it's from,
We try to talk about that.
okay, yeah. So
I
it was
can't
somebody who Norm has
Bid
worked
number
with.
one.
Yep. So we obviously have, you know, the budgets were voted on and approved, you know, by the town, or by the village residents, excuse me. So the chimney piece, the sinking fund, has available funds in it that could easily cover the chimney repair without adjusting the current budget. And then, like Norm said, we can start to talk about the concrete and making sure the whole project is done. And then with the focus also on the furnace and having that looked at, which obviously we've already spoken to West Oil to have them come prior to heating season, to look at it and make sure that we're where we're at. And then if we need to do something different with that prior to heating season, we go from there.
But last month, we talked about that, and because West Oil cleaned it back in January, we're not cleaning it until January.
Was it the firehouse or the garage?
It's firehouse.
Oh, okay.
So,
But we could have them, if there's concerns, obviously, we can have them.
well,
come
last
in.
year we had Bennington Heating and Refrigeration come in and work on the boiler, but they didn't do the cleaning. So, I mean, we could get them to run a check on it again and make sure it's operating possible.
Well, last time I brought that up at a previous meeting, and Doug said they had cleaned it in January.
Right, I was thinking that was the garage. Ray just said that, yes.
Two different companies. West Oil is doing the cleaning, but
Oh,
there was a repair
Excuse me,
made
yeah.
by Bennington Heating.
Well, I think what had happened, and maybe one of you guys remember, I think what happened was last year towards the beginning, the tank ran empty, so it stopped, and West couldn't get here right away. So Bennington Cooling and Heating came to get everything up and running. Is that right?
Yeah,
So that's
but
what
there
Bennington's.
was, it's not just oil, it was also connections, leakage in piping, and
Well, that's when they put the hot water tank in, right?
Yes,
yes, we put the hot water.
Yeah, so bank cooling, you put that.
and they disconnected the hot water from the furnace to your new system.
Right.
So now it doesn't have to run in the
Right,
summer.
the furnace ain't running also.
Right.
I've got a question. Which fund is that coming out of and how much is in there right now?
So that would be the repair fund.
Building repair.
Yep, and I'll tell you in just a minute.
Separate from the fire department's repair.
Well, it depends on how it's broken out. So I have I'll bring it up in just a second here.
The building repair fund, I think.
Yep. So that fund is a little over $44,000 in firehouse reserve.
Okay, so pretty comfortable.
Yes.
Okay. And then if the boiler went, that would be the same place that we pulled from?
It would depend on the cost. I mean, if it was within that, then yes, you'd use that first. If it was over that, you'd have to figure out, but.
Okay.
Could we,
Matthew, yeah, go
back
ahead.
to the chimbley, as they say. If a new system is gonna go in, does it require a masonry chimney? Is that the only thing that chimney services?
If it's oil, it's going to require a chimney or gas, but it's not going to be gas. So.
But it might be pellets. Mary had mentioned that.
That would be I assume the same chimney could be used.
So Matthew, are you wondering
system.
if the chimney should be put off until the rest?
Well,
like that?
I'm exploring that. I think that maybe they're at least domestic systems that run off of PVC pipe. But I imagine that building needs, and because we're restricted pretty much to oil, unless it was going to be heat pumps or that kind of thing. I just don't know what the anticipation is for the fuel system, but we dump $5,000 into a chimney and end up with a commercial heat pump system, because that's what they're pushing.
Yeah.
And then the
Norm,
chimney,
how critical, Norm, is the chimney right now?
It's got bricks missing.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I'm not climbing up there.
Mike?
I'll go out and take pictures. if You guys want
Is
pictures.
is that line, does it have a line in it? You don't know.
I'm 100% positive. If you guys want pictures, I'll get up to the top, take pictures.
I think we ought to get pictures.
So
It wouldn't
I'll
hurt.
run down and do it right now.
Well, that's,
Is there an access to get up there?
Yeah.
That's one of the things that we didn't think there was.
There's an access.
Okay.
Yeah, there's walkways up there when they had that roof redone up. They,
Well, and that, okay, so we can talk to, well, he's gonna get on the outside, and then there's one, we gotta stand for it.
Is this something that we can get some photos of, explore a little further, and talk about next month,
I would do a continuation and talk about it next week.
next week? Or
Yeah.
whenever we have to.
Summer's ending pretty.
yeah, no,
Okay.
it's right.
That's an outside
Fast
thing.
Okay, I just wanted to know if this was something that could hold, or whether,
That's just like, that would be.
I'll have pictures before I leave on Friday.
Okay,
I'll turn them off and I'll.
Matthew, we're talking about potentially
Can
doing
you email me?
continuation of the
I'll give you,
meeting.
before you leave, I'll give you my email.
I already got it.
that's fine. I didn't really want to, get, $5,000 is,
It's feasible.
it's
And
feasible.
we could decide tonight and trust that it just needs to get done before it gets cold. I see what you're saying about trying to save money if we're gonna change things later anyway, but if it's critical right now, it might be worth it to just do it.
Are we talking about bricks that you can see through to the fire chamber or the flue? Or just crumbling bricks around the thing?
I think it's crumbling right around the floor, right?
Tumbling around. It's, you get down the bottom, look up, and you look at it, and you say, that thing needs to be fixed.
So
Okay.
it sounds like it's both, Matthew, to answer
Right,
your
can I have
question.
that for a sec?
It's like it's all black.
Thank you.
all the way across.
So Matthew, the proposal says to repair cracks on bottom front of firehouse, cut out and replace bricks and joints as needed up to door openings. Note, not all bricks need to be cut out, and also plug holes about doorways, maybe old signs.
That's your front part, so
That's the front part,
that
sorry.
would be the 4,500.
Got it. Okay, sorry. I was reading the wrong one. Chimney work to set up, grind out, and replace broken brick, grind out and repair joints as needed, resurface concrete cap. So those are,
Doesn't sound like a huge concern about the safety of the combustion flue, but
yeah.
I step aside and let the board decide on that.
well, do you want to get a look at it and then we continue the meeting so that we can address this later? Or do we want to make a decision tonight?
I'm not comfortable making a decision tonight.
Okay. So
I'd
then
like
we'll
to
have-
look at it, and I'd be happy to do that sooner than later.
Okay, I think
Continue
we're
the
looking
meeting.
at, yeah, I think we're looking at a continued meeting as soon as legally possible. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. Norm, do you want to talk about the overlay culvert and then we'll do tree committee?
Sure, you all done with the fire? All right. so-
Sorry, you guys good?
The rest of our project, if you notice, we'll start right off the roof, the fountain has been shut off, somebody hit it. And get into the main box that all the water system runs through, there's a pipe that broke somewhere in there, water was pouring out into that box, we can't have that flood. So it just had to be shut off, all the electrical shut off, I just don't have time this week to deal with that. We have had 3 accidents in the last month. We're waiting on police reports, and it's not because we're waiting on police, we're waiting on me to get time to get over there. But they haven't been a real big deal, but now they're piling up. So we have the end of Harlan Road where somebody ripped off the guardrail, and now the kids are stealing our barrels. And, that guy was hitting a runner, so who knows if they even have insurance. And we have the runner last week on the bottom of Mechanic Street, we almost took out the pole, ripped the stop sign down on, bottom of Mechanic and Prospect. And now we have the fountain, so we gotta deal with that. That'll be next week. There's electrical, power, there's, when Steve was in business, he had his guy put those link seals in the wall, one of them's blown out, you know what I mean? So there's a lot, there's something, that ain't gonna be a pretty thing, there's a lot of stuff in there. That's not gonna be great. I don't even know if the fountain will get turned on for the rest of this year.
Norm, does the driver's insurance cover our expenses?
I would assume so, and, I was there for that. I responded to that accident. I had pictures, the police were there, so nobody's walking away from it, and they were, both cars involved were new cars. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's probably more likely than not that they have insurance. They were, of reasonable age drivers, closer to you than a teenager, so let's just say that to be respectful. So, but, I don't know what their insurance is, but yes,
No, but
it's not gonna-
we can make a claim, right?
Yeah, there's two cars, one hit one and one hit the other. I don't know, we're gonna deal with that next week, but you should be aware that it was hit, it was wide, the bench is messed up, when you see it.
No, I went out and looked at it. Doug, do you know about the insurance if an automobile damages? the
So
property?
again, like Norm just said, it all depends on the insurance that you have. But if you have,
Well, they have. to
your
have liability.
standard,
Yeah,
you're supposed to have liability.
Yes,
You have to have.
So,
assuming they're insured, they're going to have liability.
correct,
Yeah.
right. So then you make your claim just like you would if something happened at your house or you got in an accident and it gets approved, denied, or countered. So then you have to go through the process of,
Okay,
going back and forth with them. Then if it doesn't, the village can submit to our insurance company as the secondary.
right.
But they won't even think about talking or looking at it until it's gone all the way through
Their company.
the driver at fault.
Okay, would our insurance pursue their insurance company?
More than likely, yes.
Yeah.
Right, after the fact, yes.
After we.
But we're way outside the realm, we gotta peel back, because we're way past that. The first thing we gotta do is just get the police report and file that back.
Okay, I'm just wondering, it sounds like it's gonna be expensive to do.
It's gonna be expensive,
Yeah.
I know that, all three of them are a little bit.
So I heard that accident, it was someone from out of state that went up the wrong way onto West Street there. So seems like we need a little more signage there so people coming down Prospect Street realize that's a one way and they just don't go out onto the road.
It's legally marked, that's,
I was saying maybe.
we can put litter on a stick to the world, should, you know what, Jeffrey, me and you are not gonna agree on that, so. It's
Okay.
litter on a stick.
Okay,
It is marked, and you've been here, how many years you been in this,
I know that because
right?
I live
And I've
here.
seen one accident there for that reason, so, it's
Okay.
litter on a stick.
Okay,
So,
it was just a thought. Never mind.
It's okay, because it's not a recurring thing, I think we're not too worried about it.
Okay.
Well, it's a second, are you talking about the fountain?
No,
Yeah.
are we talking about the fountain?
Yeah, where the
Okay.
person went
Yeah.
straight through,
There was another massive one there a few years ago.
But they were coming up West Street.
Yes, well, no, they were coming up
Or
Water
no, they were
Water Street,
coming up Water Street.
and they did not negotiate the turn, and they KO'd a tree, which
They
is
were
why we
coming
had
up
to
another,
tree.
the other street. Yes, yeah.
okay, so, we're past that ship's done.
Okay,
So, now we're on the Overley Road culvert.
Got
As we all know, we put signs out forever and ever, and, Monday morning, it was a big surprise, everybody got a letter in their mailbox last week. But, the culvert the old one has been removed. It had been extended at least once in its life. Probably more than likely in the days of the Model A's, because because there was 2 walls on the inside, you know, and that, so it's been widened. Center section was completely disintegrated. The new one has been placed today. The state engineer, the AOT guy, the engineer from the company, they've all been on site and inspected it. They're all in love with the work that we're doing. We're 2 days ahead of schedule. You know, that's not gonna mean that the road's gonna open any sooner. It just means that the target that we really wanted to hit, we're going to hit. Our goal is to have the road passable by an emergency vehicle on Friday. So we'll still leave the road closed, there'll be a ton of barricades, but if an emergency vehicle had to get through that, they can drive through that. Hopefully paved next week. I met with the paver today, and, so that should be going good. It's, again, it's, you know, project, the bills are gonna come out, Doug, we're gonna have to sit down someday, either here or over in Bennington, and then we're gonna have to go through slips and print out pictures and stuff, and then deal with the state guy. I believe all the paperwork for how we submit the requisitions that he has.
Yep.
That's what our AOT engineer said today. By the way, it's going.
Yep, and I had just, not to cut you off, but I emailed the gentleman from the state yesterday. To find out, had a couple quick questions for him, so just about the documentation, so if he gets back to me what I think he's going to, I can submit that first batch that we had and start to go from there.
So it's going very well. We had, as you saw, it's got decorated. We had the little kids from the art center decorated.
Fantastic.
From the ground, and, you know, so that project is going extremely well. Right now, that's my main focus. Nothing else really matters much. The grass is not even gonna get cut this week. You know, we gotta get that road back open again for emergency vehicles, then we can back up and make it pretty next week. But, I think we're gonna be on target for that. All the neighbors have been great. Most of the time, the people that we had the problem is down the road. Now, there was a miscommunication today. There was a 4-car accident out on 7A. And they, first call came in, it was at the end of Overly Road, and we went out and inspected that, and it was not. It was down at the veterinarian clinic. I don't know why or how it happened, and I'm not gonna speculate, but again, the signage and everything we put out was right with AOT guidelines, and we got everything we can, and then we did a little extra. So, you know, that's the best we can do. Hopefully the neighbors will appease with us for just a little bit longer. And then we'll get back on to doing stuff. You notice that over by the store, it's been marked in the road from AOT to change that pipe. I would honestly think that is never gonna happen this year now with the flooding, because up north, they are so overwhelmed. But it was on their radar screen, and they were really thinking about getting it done. So I don't know where we'll land on that after that, so.
Okay, well, thank you. It's good to hear that everything is going well.
As someone who lives on Mechanic Street,
Yes.
I'd like them to leave those barricades up for another year. We have stopped tractor trailers and stopped trucks that don't belong on that road. They drive down, see the barricade, and sit there for 10 minutes trying to figure out what they're gonna do. So if he leaves them there a year, you won't hear us complain.
Okay.
One vote for Norm.
Yeah.
No, they're not going there. If I don't have to plow, if I can turn right by, Leon Johnson's and keep going, I got no issues, but you'll have to talk to the residents that live down the street and on the private road. You know, but other than that, I think that's about it.
I know. Okay, so there's 2 more things that we need Norm for. One is tree committee, but I'm gonna actually,
Cut them all down. It's fine. Don't worry about it. We've got chainsaws. Just knock them all down.
well, you're already familiar with the issue. It's an update on the vegetation removal at bridges 71 and 72.
Yeah.
So is that why you're here?
Yes.
Okay. Did you want to speak to that, or Norm, do you want to talk about?
I didn't go to that meeting. They did.
Oh, okay.
Mary asked me to come and just, it's a progress report.
Okay.
And I'm just basically gonna just go over quickly.
Do me one favor, get closer because I can see the people on the mics are straining to hear you.
Do you need fire?
I think you guys are okay.
Okay, so.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
you.
This is regarding vegetation on bridges 71, 72. So far, I met with Ron Pembroke, took a look at the situation. He's certified to do this kind of work near the water. Mary and I also met with Michael Fernandez, works for Bennington County Natural Resources. He's going to look into possible grants that could help pay for this. At this point, he doesn't know if there are any, but he likes to find grants wherever possible. Apparently, we don't need permits for this work. Michael has ideas.
You do not?
Do not.
Oh,
No. His only input was that the people can go down in there and basically cut the trees and everything, cut the invasives all down, but not pull out any roots because that would disturb the bank and then actually you've got erosion, problem with things falling into the river.
right.
So he said, it should be like a 5 to 7 year plan, bid it out, every now and then just get somebody down in there, probably with a bucket and, cut things down to the ground, leave the roots. But he did say, and this is where people have to be certified near water, you can't spray for invasives and kill those roots, but you can, once it's cut, you can actually dab on certain invasives and that'll kill the invasives, which are just, there's a lot less invasives there than just regular trees. So there'll be enough roots left there basically to hold the bank. And let's see. So we've asked BCRC for assistance writing RPF, haven't heard back yet. We've received a list of people who are certified with apply chemicals that were recommended by ANR. I don't know who all of these people are. This is Mary's notes to me. And so we will, be at some point sending out bids to Ron, and there is one other person, I guess, that's already gotten back to Mary that is interested in bidding on the job.
Okay.
So that's where we are
Perfect.
at. Okay?
Questions? Good. Let's just keep rolling along.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Matthew.
Last issue for Norm or involving Norm, Tim Newbold is on Zoom to talk about a crosswalk. So Tim, if you want to have the floor.
Sure, thank you. So I would, whatever you guys think is best, and Norm would know best, but we're going to be having classes at the church across the street coming this year. And our music classes are going to be in the lower level there. So kids are going to be crossing on Church Street towards Hall Street multiple times a day. So I'd love to consider a crosswalk or a sign or something there to just make that a little bit of a safer crossing for kids on a regular point of the day, multiple times a day.
This is the Baptist church or the Congregational church?
This is the Baptist. This is on Church Street going down towards Hall Street. So the Baptist church.
Yeah.
West side.
The first thing you gotta do is we gotta talk to the Regional Planning Commission, and they have to do a traffic study to put in a crosswalk. There's not another sidewalk to cross to. So there's really a sidewalk to nowhere, even though they want to privately put something in. Again, we're gonna have to add more litter on a stick. This is my favorite most thing in the world to do. But Jim Henderson and say they want to put a crosswalk there. I mean, he's got to do a traffic study and blah, blah, blah. Tim would more than likely have to write up, point paper on why they want it. You know what I mean? And certainly children crossing would be a big safety reason, and this is why we're doing it. Is it going to be a one-time thing? Do we have a 10-year contract? We'll all come and play in that, and then.
Yeah, Tim,
As far
is
as
this,
painting it, we can paint it, but a legal crosswalk, and somebody goes into it and they get hurt, and it's not been all through the right steps, is bad for them.
Okay.
So he's the first step. So like we talked about, changing this intersection up here, where there's a stop sign, and the state said, no,
because the traffic study says, no, you don't need it, you can't just throw them out anywhere you want. That's all.
Okay.
We've been trying for years to get one in North Bennington Drive, and there's not enough traffic there. Now, again, school age kids, you know what I mean? But that's it.
So Norm, is there something in between putting a crosswalk in? Can we just put a sign or something like that? As opposed to it being a full-on crosswalk? I mean,
I think that you already have the signs that says slow school.
yeah,
So it's already, everything's there to aware people that there's, children there. I mean, as far as, somebody who's driven in the state for years, it already tells me I gotta slow down and I gotta behave. A crossing guard might be, that's the answer,
Tim, when the kids are crossing the road, are they gonna have a teacher with them when they're doing this?
most of the time, yeah. But not, I can't, if I can't have a crosswalk, then I'd have to guarantee a person there every time, which would mean almost another, another person. So,
A teacher's not a crossing guard,
Right,
right? A crossing guard can be a teacher,
right.
but, there's a little different, right? It's not a lot of training, but there is some training, you know what I mean? And, again, it's a very doable thing. Jim Henderson is the first person to deal with it. Send me an email and I will get Jim to meet with us and we will start the traffic study and write up your point paper, but we can send it to them because it might help quicker.
mhm.
And, it doesn't need to be, book version, couple paragraphs of what you're planning on doing. And why.
Okay.
Tim, is this gonna be something that is multi-year, or is this just something that happened for this year?
Well, we've opened another pre-K classroom in our school. So we're going to need a space, whether it's there or someplace else. Music is going to be at another space. So this is probably going to be multi-year at minimum.
Okay, all right, so it sounds like you have to write something up and email Norm, and then that'll get us at least started on the process.
And how long might it take, just out of curiosity?
I'll call Jim Henderson next week and we'll start, again, we're dealing with state bureaucracy. I would speculate that car driver had insurance before I would speculate that the state would move fast on something like this. We'll do the best we can. Again, in your point paper, urgency is, is a factor, right? Your school's coming.
Yep.
20, 30 days. Right?
Yep.
I mean, it's August, September, right?
Yep.
It's coming.
All right. Thank you for your help, Norm.
Quickly as you can. Mr. Novak had a question.
Just a question, the blinking lights we have in front of the library, that would be a great solution for this. The kids can just do it themselves. Would that also take state permission to put one of those?
Well, yes and no. Yes, no to put them up. Yes, because they're put up on a crosswalk. So you have to build a crosswalk correctly. No different than we do ordinances or, anything else in the town, big things have to be done to a certain standard. And there's a certain way. And one of the biggest things, and that's why I'm very reluctant about this, right? Okay, but there's nowhere for it to go. It doesn't terminate somewhere else. If there was a crosswalk or another sidewalk, we could go across and we could deal with that. I certainly appreciate that, what's going on here, but there's no good spot for it to come off. I mean, I guess you could come at the end, which is on the other side of Church Street, so then you come across, and then you're on actually the wrong side of Hall Street. You know what I mean? There's not really a good spot, maybe where the handicap ramp is. You know what I mean? There might be, I'm just not recalling it in my head, but it terminates to a front of a privately owned building. And again, the church is a public building, so
it all can go, but it needs to go legally and it needs to go right, so if something ever happens.
No, those are great points, Norm. I'm not sure if there's a sidewalk in front of the church. I can't picture it in my head right now, but I'm not sure.
There's steps.
If there's just a short
steps.
piece of it right in front of the church, no?
So that's all, so the piece of this is Doug talking.
Yeah.
So I live on Hall Street, so that piece of concrete that's in front of the church is actually the entrance. They built a quasi ramp, you know, for, I assume for handicap accessibility. So it's not actually a piece of sidewalk.
But what about on Church Street, that side? Is there a sidewalk on the Church Street side in front of the church?
There's a wall, a retaining wall. I don't know, there's not a sidewalk on the other side.
The
of it.
retaining wall's on the Hall Street,
Right.
the Church Street side is just a step, their front step.
Yes, they have steps to the pathway to, I don't know what that building is back there.
It all connects to the church.
Yeah, okay.
So now we put in again, we put in a crosswalk, and now we have a step.
Right.
Is it a handicap step, right?
No.
All that should,
Steps.
so it all has to flow. Now, again, if this is, music, right, which I'm sure the village is in favor of, you know, it's a space, which we're running out of, sounds like, right, again, they're our neighbor, and, you know, maybe it is reality, it's not going to be here in September, and we're crossing guard or see teachers we have to deal with, but these are the steps that can be built for next spring, or
Okay.
you know, even late fall, right? And the church has got to, you know, if there has to be a ADA ramp on the other side to accept it, we have to make sure it's there, you know what I mean? And then, you know, so there's a little bit more than just throwing it down and paint. We can do that in an hour, right? But it should not be done that way.
Mhm.
You know, and it's, if we can start the process and a couple of questions answered, you know, I can't imagine that they would kick it back or any AOT regulations would deal with that. But we have to have somewhere where it terminates. And it's, you know, it's gotta come off a certain way and it's gotta go on a certain way. You know, and we gotta have.
Okay, so I think the steps that we need to move forward with are talking to Jim Henderson and talking to Norm and writing up your paper so that that can move ahead as it will. I'm going to move us forward because we
No, I
have to
appreciate
start-
that. Thank you for your time. Have a good
Okay,
night.
thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
Okay. Norm, you are done. We are a little behind schedule for the treasurer's report. Let's rock.
Okay.
Thanks, Norm.
All right, so everybody should have
Get all
the tax rate.
What about this proposal? That goes back with Norm?
Is this for you or do we
No,
keep
that's for you guys.
it? Okay, thank you.
It is accepted, just give me one copy of that.
Got it.
I'll hold on to it one.
Yes,
So
you
You're
will.
gonna tell me when the next meeting is next week.
Yes.
I'll respond to
Okay.
that. I'll treat you down that week, makes Louise clean up the body.
So we have the tax rate information. And I'm just going to pull up my spreadsheet here and then we can talk about everything that I sent out. Mary and I met several times before she went on vacation to discuss the tax rates, the amount to be raised by taxes, and all those fun items. So, bless you.
Thank you, sorry.
Once my spreadsheet opens up, there we go. Okay, so we have 3 items that I sent. The amount to be raised by taxes, which has the tax rate and then the comparison. So the regular, I'll call it, amount to be raised by taxes is the items that were approved at the annual meeting for the budget. And the expenses on the top part, this one,
Okay.
again, are just broken out by general government, fire department, public works, highway, including sidewalks, other organizations, other expenditures, insurance, contingency, and then declarations for any carryovers. So the highway, including sidewalks, you'll see an asterisk there. That is with the grant expense because we have to spend the money before we get reimbursed from the state. Just a little backstory on that one, that is a 80% grant at $200,000. So as long as the village spends $240,000, we get $200,000 back for the Overley Road project. And of that 240, there are allotments for man hours, equipment usage, and things like that. So it's not all literal dollars from the account paying vendors and things like that. So that does factor in. So we've also already spent monies in the prior 2 fiscal years. 2 fiscal years ago was very minimal, just mostly planning items. Last year, at the May meeting, I think it was, we talked about it and we were up to a little over 50,000. And I believe in June, as of June 30th, we were right around 60,000 for monies that were already spent for the project. Again, they're not reimbursed as of yet. As you heard me say, tell Norm, we're working with the state. Hopefully this week, no later than next week, we'll have the first requisition sent out to the state for reimbursement. And that'll be the majority of what we've already spent. We're just waiting for clarification on if we have to bill the man hours as we go, or we can do the man hours all at the end. So once we finalize a few of those little details, then we'll get that first out of there. So that's a little backtrack. But
So that's 58,964.
Yes, that's the 58. Yep, exactly. Yep. So you'll see on that, the one that you have up there, we budgeted approximately 175,000 in expenses for the coming year. And again, that's an estimate.
You're looking at 200,000 coming back.
Correct. The 200,000 because we had, again,
expenses. Correct.
And there's expenses that are already in the highway portion that do apply, like wages, equipment, things like that. So that's why those two numbers don't equal exactly 240, because we're trying to estimate where some of the other items are going to come from. So that's where you'll see the net of the 25,000 at the bottom line there for the grant. The revenue section, again, it's pretty straightforward. It doesn't change very much year to year. So permits, fees, and interest, we kept at the 3,000 from last year. We were slightly over, but it wasn't to the point where it warranted an increase. The state highway aid, actually, as I was working on this, we got the letter from the state, so that should be the exact amount that we get for our state highway aid. The ARPA funds that we're designating in this, because we have the line item, is for the speed sign, which was budgeted for. Town of Bennington gives $6,000 for parks. And then you get down into the fund balances for highway, fire, and general and other. You'll see that highway was a positive fund balance, fire was a negative, and general and other was a negative fund balance. The fire has been discussed. The general other, a large portion of that is the 4-year contract for the charging that I talked about in the email. So you could, from an accounting standpoint, move some of that to coming years because it is 4 years. But at the end of the day, if you're moving 2,000, it doesn't really affect it drastically, right? When you get down to the tax rate, it just makes the negative number look bigger. But it doesn't affect, because you can't move the entire, because you do have a portion for this year, a portion for the coming years. For the highway, we are looking at carrying over $5,000 to be earmarked for the sidewalk project. That was going to be completed heading out towards North Bennington that Norm was just talking about by North Bennington Variety. Norm was holding off on finishing that last stretch down towards Homestead Muse. in anticipation of the state digging up that pipe because they didn't want to lay new sidewalk and then have the state dig the pipe up. So the carryover is the 5,000 for the portion of that work. So all of that being said, if we go forward as budgeted and as discussed, you have a highway rate of 0.536, a general rate of 0.2709, and a fire of 0.1626 for a total of 96.95. So you'll see, let me make sure I have my right numbers in front of me. Yes. So that would equate to an 11.94 increase. And you can see year over year, obviously during COVID, it was basically a level fund. Last year was a 6%. So this would be a larger increase. And your increases for highway is less than 2 pennies. For general, it would be just under 3 pennies. And for your fire, it's going to be just over 5 cents. And the big change to fire is the loan payment for the truck. So that's the big. Also fire, we have started to increase the reserve funds to start to replenish. And obviously the discussions being had about the work that needs to be done and things like that. So that is as presented. Now, if I had put in the second proposal, an extra 10,000 for the work, not knowing about the brickwork. So if I go back for just a second, I can tell you what that, do you have my email right there?
I have.
Just jump right out to that tax rate email. Yep.
That's where I am. So right here.
Yep. So 14.37. So if $15,000 is added, we would go, the tax increase would be 14.37.
Is that percent or?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. So at 11, at the first item, it would be just under 12% increase. Right. And then the penny increase is per line item, meaning highway, general, and fire.
I can't see that going any higher.
No, especially looking over the course of the past 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah. That's the biggest increase I've seen in 22 years.
Well, apparently we did that in 2015.
Yep, in 2000, this is less than 2015. 2015, well, coming from 15 to 16, it was 12.36.
Right.
But it hasn't been that big,
Right, and then coming from 18 to 19 was 9.3. So that the year immediately prior to COVID was a 9% increase.
I remember that. Yeah, and then it's been fairly small changes until now.
So Doug, you're saying if the regular tax, what you described at the beginning as a regular tax would be 11 and change.
11.94, yes.
11.
And that is literally taking the budget that was approved at the annual meeting.
Right.
And adjusting for the fund balances.
Right.
Okay. There's no movement. So
what do we get if we go to 14.37?
an extra $15,000.
All of the firehouse work.
That's to fix the firehouse.
Well, again, if that was what was being discussed, and that's what the trustees had in front of them.
Right.
So Mary wanted to have the two numbers to compare. Okay. So that was what was presented. So it would be that 14% would be an extra $15,000 that, based on discussion, would be earmarked for firehouse repair. Okay.
But now we're deferring at least the apron, thinking about the chimney, and obviously crossing our fingers on the furnace. So I don't think we need to add that to this year's change.
I don't disagree.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just
Nobody
going by.
over there
I'm
wants
just
us to
going
do
by
that.
what we
Also,
have.
didn't we discuss earlier on that there was a sinking fund for the firehouse repairs?
Yes, that was the one that a little over 44,000.
Okay.
yeah.
So why do we need,
That was,
the budget monies?
So the
Why can't we
discussion.
take it out of that?
Yep, absolutely could. The discussion was because we still have the furnace issue.
Right.
So
the 44,000.
I don't know what it would be to replace it.
No. I mean, the fund balance or the sinking fund is 44,000.
because it's a sinking fund and it gets, a little bit funneled into it over time, this is what it's become.
Right.
And we don't want to like deplete it. It's
Oh, I
just
agree.
there in
I agree.
case.
Yeah.
So I'd say we keep it at 11,940, and that's going to be a big enough jump for everyone anyway. And then
we use the
sinking fund.
sinking fund to do the generator
Yeah.
or one of the other things, and hope for the best. I like your attitude.
And hope for the best.
On the
Fingers
film,
crossed on the one.
Right, and like I said, before we knew of how the fund balances would be, at the time of the annual meeting, the increase was over 9%. So the budget that was presented to the public was a 9% increase.
Right.
So there's not a lot of change from that to now.
Mm-hmm.
You put your fund balances in, we're carrying forward 5,000 towards sidewalk, and that's where you end at your 11.94.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Does anyone know how old the boiler is in the firehouse?
Ancient.
Steve, you know?
Same age as the building, when was the building put up?
We think 68 maybe.
That's the original boiler.
Wow.
Yeah, it's done its job.
It's
It lasts forever.
No.
Yeah. Right.
But we are looking at grants right
Right,
now.
and that's the hope that Mary has, is to try to milk it for one more year with the hopes that we've got the first part of the grant, that she's got the planning piece in place. So with that, move to the next phase, hopefully we can get that. She's already collected, I provided her with the data of oil usage. That was another piece that the grant needed, so they're gonna see how inefficient it is.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, again,
Amazing.
everybody needs to hope that can go through, for a year, and hopefully prior to this time next year, we've been approved for the grant and they're doing the work.
Mr. Novak?
I just have a question. So this raising taxes, property taxes, I assume. And how often does the town property reassessed?
Okay, I'll give you a quick, the 10-cent tour. So I wonder if I can find my email. I believe, I'm gonna do some of this from memory because I'm also the treasurer for the school district. So this came up with all the school information. And there is an article in the banner that I'm gonna partially summarize that was back in, I believe, April, May, right?
Yeah,
Somewhere around there. So what's happening right now across the state, every town basically needs to reassess. There's an equity level that goes on your school portion of your taxes. Everybody's out of whack. All the percentages are too high.
That's just brief interjection. That's called the common level of appraisal. So districts are rated, their property valuations are rated against sales and adjusted to put them in line with their neighbors across the whole state, because we fund education statewide, actually. And so you have to adjust those amounts so that one town isn't paying extremely low taxes for the kind of spending that they have in their school system.
So the percentage right now is, like Ray just said, if you look at the sales from the Bennington, if you go to the Bennington town website, you can see all the sales. There's nothing that's selling at or below the assessed value. Everything is through the roof. So like Ray said, when the state compares those two figures, they say, well, and they calculate the percentage. I believe it's 80 or 82%.
Yeah.
It's in the low 80%. You have to be within that percentage of your assessed versus your sales.
Yes, but it's actually at 68%.
Right. So we're well below, not just us.
And it's not just North Carolina.
It is, Yes, and the number of towns, I forget, again, I'll pull my synopsis that I did for the school at some point, and I can
It's
try to get
almost
to
every town.
right. I looked up the towns and figured out how many in the percentage, and it's
Like
a lot.
200 or something ridiculous.
Yeah. So I believe 2008 was the last, to get back to your original question, I believe it was 2008 that Bennington did their rolling reassessment. So the vast majority, again, not every, but the vast majority of properties have not been assessed since 2008. Now, new construction doesn't apply. That's a separate section. If you have certain remodels, they may reassess. Again, not everyone, though. So it's fallen to the point where it's not even close to where it needs to be. So now the problem, we're on the other end. So many towns are going to need to reassess that there's a shortage of certified appraisers and folks that can do this project. I've spoken to the assessor in Bennington, and he said, best case scenario, if we were to go on the list today, you're 3 years out, because they're going to start with the more populated and where they're essentially located. So then they're going to filter out to the smaller towns, villages, and things like that. So long story short, it needs to happen, but it's not going to happen anytime soon. It's a great point, because I can tell you the grand list increased just over $2,000 from last year to this year. Think about all the sales that we know of in North Bennington, and the grand list increased by just over $2,000. So these tax rates, when you look at the budget that was in, the annual report, there's nothing that's, would be considered wasteful spending. But because it's on the backs of a small amount of people, and the property values may not be reflective of what they really are at this point in time. So again, with a reassessment, doesn't necessarily mean your taxes are going to go up, because it's proportional.
Well,
So you have a tax rate.
Or down.
Point of fact, you're paying for this, the budget is the budget in either case. It's just your rate.
Yep.
Changes.
Exactly.
Based on.
And if the assessments double, say, worst case.
Right, then your rate will go down, but you're gonna pay basically the same amount.
Yep, exactly. So again, to tie it all back together, it's on the radar, but how quickly it's going to happen is not there. And it's going to be the same thing once the state finalizes the school rates. They're still trying to figure that out. Those aren't final. When Bennington set their rates, I think they were 2 weeks ago, their increase was a little over 8%. They said the same thing. They don't have the school tax rates available as of yet. So proportionally.
It's also important to note that the school rate for the school tax, is 2/3 of your taxes. In our community anyway, so that, you're putting what we increase. If the school rate was less, then your total tax will be less. If it's more, it'll be more. I hope it's not more.
We had a deep lesson, Matthew. I don't think anyone's complaining too much. They're just learning. So trying to stay on our agenda.
Okay, move along. Sorry.
Are we ready to make a motion to approve the tax rate of 11.94%? Increase.
Yes, we must.
Okay, so.
The only thing we can do is, we don't have to spend as much, but we would have to find things we want to drop from the budget.
Correct.
And we can't spend more. That's
correct.
Right. Yeah. We can only spend more for making up for deficits from last year.
Right. And hopefully, just for the population, this year is an exception and it won't be nearly this next year. We can't promise anything, but we can try.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Just so you guys have perspective, because you don't have this in front of you, can I just rattle it off? In the past several years, we've gone from a -8 to a 12 to a 1 to a 6 to a 9 to a 0.2. or 0.12 to a 2% to a 6% to an 11.8%. So we've actually had some fluctuation, but it is never,
Averaged out.
yeah, it hasn't been quite this bad. COVID was nice and steady.
Right.
All right,
And you
moving,
can see there are a lot of contingencies that occur
yeah,
in years that.
In
we've
place.
got anything
You need
else
to
up?
take, I don't, so you need to take care of it.
I know, I'm waiting.
I don't
Okay,
have anything
I
else
am
unless there's any
looking
other
for
questions.
a motion.
I make
Did we
a
have a-
motion
Here
Okay.
comes.
that
I'll second
we
it.
accept the 11.9% increase to the village budget.
Okay, and a second from Ray. Any further discussion? All in favor?
I
Aye.
Aye. All approved? Excellent. All right.
Just
One
one,
second.
Yeah.
Carol.
Lori,
Doug? Oh, my question was 11.94%, correct?
Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
that's correct.
And I was just gonna say, Lori, my sheet that I'll bring to you will have the exact rates for each, for the highway, for the general, and for the fire, so you have those, in case you didn't get the exact numbers when I was talking about it.
Perfect, thank you. Thank you.
And I'll have the three sign here. Matthew, you need to sign this one, so I'll leave this one with Lori tomorrow, and you can just get over there whenever you can to sign,
Cute.
the tax one. Thank
Great.
you, Matt. That's all I have.
Okay,
So we're actually, I'm not sure why we did this as a percentage. Why don't we actually adopt the rate?
I don't know.
Well, Lori, does it matter to you if it's as a percentage, or, because we did discuss the rates, would you rather have the motion be for the rates?
We always in the past have done it just like this. And then
Okay.
what I do is list underneath the individual amounts, like 2% for the whatever general fund and 5% for the fire department, or whatever they are.
Okay, as long as that's how it's been done in the past, we're set.
We accept it as a whole, and then I break it out for people to see.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lori.
Okay. Development Review Board, all I have to say is there is a meeting next week. There are a couple of issues on the meeting next week. It is August 15th at 7 o'clock here. Planning Commission. The Planning Commission has to nominate someone for our open DRB seat. Who's doing this? Is this you?
Yes, this is Nick.
Okay.
And, Nick, can't remember his last,
Disorder.
sort of, has come forward and it's been talked about, and we'd like to nominate him to
Okay.
become a member of
The Development Review Board. Okay. Do we have to make a motion on that? Lori, do we have to make a motion on that?
To appoint someone to the Development Review Board? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay. So can I have a motion to appoint Nick Disorda as another member of the DRB?
so moved.
Second.
Second.
Excellent. I have Scott and
Okay, we'll put
Ray.
Matthew in there.
All right, Matthew can have it just so he feels special. All in
Thank you.
Can
favor?
I have the term, please?
The term, oh, how long he's in?
Correct.
That's a good question. Do you,
I think it's 3 years, but I'm not correct.
usually they're 3 years, but I don't know if he's taking an empty seat that has a specific
Yeah, did
position. Can,
Did he take your seat?
let me, hold on, let me look at the,
And then how long is your term, Phil?
Just, so would be 27.
So is it to fill the remaining term of Chris Damon?
Yeah.
Correct.
That's what I'll put.
She's gonna just put it that way.
yeah,
Yeah, that'll cover it.
okay.
Okay.
Sounds good. All right, next thing on the agenda is the water department. Water department is nominating.
Here. We'll move on for you. The water board usually gives you two names. Choose from. The issue this time was one of the candidates backed out in the 11th hour. So we have one person to nominate. the water board has also changed the way they come up with a nomination. I heard you say you ran around and found somebody that would do it, and that's what we do in this village. Sometimes we run around, we find somebody, we get them, they get on the board, they say, oh, I didn't realize it was this, you know.
We all know this.
So we've decided we will get the candidates. We will then, as we did with our candidate this time, give these to you. Matthew doesn't have one, but I will give you one to give him. But we have a meeting with them. And in that meeting, we discussed what the job really entails. And this, your candidate this year is Ed Myers from the firehouse. And so some of the questions, of course, are tailored to someone who's coming from whatever, the firehouse or the planning board or whatever. But it is really to inform them of what we're going to expect from them, which is be to meetings, be to work meetings, be to budget meetings, and if you're not, you'll be removed. It's that plain with us now, because we've got to have you there. The water board has a lot going on in its plate right now, and it needs really, and one of the things we explained to people that want to be candidates is it's not a once a month meeting anymore. It's 2 months, or it's 2 meetings a month. One of them is a work meeting. We're breaking into separate groups to do that and get the information to the board at the monthly meeting so that we can get it done. But those are the questions he answered. There is no right or wrong answer on those questions, as you can see. It's we're trying to get a feel for what he can, if he's going to be able to make the meetings. He realizes that he has to be there.
So this was brought to him, he's already seen this?
He's already done this.
Okay.
He's already done this. He did this last night.
Okay, and you guys are recommending him
Yes, we are.
wholeheartedly?
Yep.
Okay. Any questions, further discussion?
I would like to say that I appreciate Steve's new approach to this, in that he's bringing forth candidates that he's actually spoken to. And I think that Ed Myers would be a great person on the water board if he wants to be on it.
The questionnaire that were the opening statement to Ed was that one of the reasons Ed was considered was his many years of service to the fire department. And I guess I look at the fire department, we look upon them as the guys that get up and they run the minute the fire whistle goes off and do what they do. But, you know, in the dead of winter or the hot of summer, the planning board, the trustees, every board is important because we're going around as people are enjoying their evening and we're sitting here as you were. You know, we're trying to figure out where to keep this in line, how much can we really do this, so, and trying to make them realize that. But I think he realizes that and he should make us a good number. He is filling the term of Jerry Elwell, who had to resign. So he will be on, he will get about 1 year.
Okay.
At this appointment, he will be
And then
back.
we'll see you again for another.
Yeah, you'll see us every year because there are 5 members and they serve 5-year terms.
Okay.
Well, I agree with Matthew. This seems like a really good process you engaged in. And yeah, that is the thing, is this person able to meet this commitment to be a member of this board and effective and present.
And but a lot of times you don't know that when you say, yeah,
No.
I'd like to do that.
That's definitely true.
Yeah.
Sometimes you find later it's a lot more work than you expected.
I'd also like to speak to the loss of Jerry.
Yeah.
That was kind of unexpected on my part. I'm sure you all were aware of the situation, but that's a big loss to this community, just in terms of the history and his dedication to the water department and all that. So I just wanted to note his passing.
That's the only job Jerry ever had. He worked after school, he went in the Marines, he came back, he worked, and it was the only job he ever had. And when I joined the water board in 19, I guess it was 89 or 90, if he hadn't been there to guide the board just kind of fell apart at that time. We wouldn't have a water board, I don't think. He really was a valuable asset. And when we speak of Jerry, he lost his wife. She was our bookkeeper. We said, you know, we'd see her next month. That next day she passed away. And then all of a sudden Mary stepped in. Thank God Mary was there and filled that slot for us because we're not bookkeepers. As I told Doug the other night, we are not bookkeepers here. We, you know, when it comes to reading financial statements, you got to keep it simple for us. But she stepped in and kept that flowing until we could get a new bookkeeper. And so we've had some issues going on, but anyways, I do apologize because we were supposed to be here 15 days after Jerry handed in his resignation. But unfortunately, we were just in such a tailspin. It was not, I hate to say it's a priority. We were just trying to get things done.
We'll look past it.
Okay, thank you.
Things continue to.
Appreciate your
Okay.
being here and your presentation and your remembrance of Jerry. Spent his whole life
Yes.
helping this community.
Yeah, he did.
Thanks, Steve.
So I am looking for a motion to appoint Ed Myers.
So
I
moved.
will make,
Oh,
yeah,
Matthew beat you. All right,
I'll
Ray.
second it.
There we go. And further discussion, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
I have a hard time not saying aye when you say that, just so you know.
That's okay, we'll take a spare eye. All right, so now new business. Does
Good night,
anyone
Steve.
have any new business to bring to this world? No, excellent. Then we're gonna go to old business. Mr. Boudreau.
And I will tell you, I just moved to high school.
I know, okay. Mr. Boudreau, if
Yes.
you would present about the Wellingfield project,
And would you please come up to the,
just close enough so we can hear
Yeah.
over there.
Lori likes to take accurate notes.
I'm well aware of that.
I thought you might be.
This is just a quick update. First, thank you to Zach and Jimmy at the water board or the water department. They were able to, we had to, in talking with MSK concerning grass, we realized a watering system really doesn't exist there. And I knew that there was a spigot in behind the backstop years ago. So they went, researched it, checked it out, found it, realized it needed to be updated. And within, I think, a week and a half of finding this, they dug up with the help of Matt Morse, who I also want to thank, who donated his time. I apologize, I don't know the gentleman that works with him. Dug up the old, put in a new. They also wanted to upgrade and put in a bubbler, so there was a drinking fountain there as well. So they did that, I think, a week and a half ago, but then realized they had no way of ensuring the quality of the water because that line's been stagnant for so long.
Yeah.
They decided it'd be better to take the bubbler out. So we do still have a watering system to water the field once we get it redone, but they had to take the bubbler out because they'd hate for anybody, which we would also hate for anybody to get sick.
what are you saying?
So it's
A
a
water
bubbler, so
fountain.
drinking fountain.
Oh, the
Water
drinking
fountain,
fountain.
yeah, so it's just a little.
Are you from
Thank you.
Rhode Island? What
What are you, British or
Water.
something?
That's what they refer to it as. That's what they told me it was, that's one.
A water fountain.
Yes, it's just a
Okay.
drinking fountain.
Drinking fountain, there you go.
So they have since, so they installed that and then had to take that part off, but we do still have the watering system. To basically no cost to the village, so. The water
Fantastic.
department gave their time and efforts. Jimmy, I don't know his last name again, I apologize, had most of the parts, whatever parts he didn't have, Zach.
Ostrander.
Thank you, yes. So the only expense was I had to go buy a 6x6 post to put everything on.
Oh.
So And that was, I think,
Give it to our treasurer.
you see here, get some eyes on here, like $31 roughly.
I could have given you an 8x8.
If I'd have known that, I'd
Yeah,
come to your
I
house.
know you need that.
Well, next time.
And with all that said, I would recommend and ask that I know most of those gentlemen frequent the North Bennington Variety for lunch. It'd be great to get like 4 $25 gift certificates, so, because I can assume the cost of that would have been in excess of $1,000 to get all that done. Matt Morris donated his equipment and time, and well, as well as the guy that works with him. Water department has plenty they could have been doing, and they filled their time and.
Yes.
You could have a motion, and then Lori and I could work with Mark to get it taken care of if the trustees want to make, because you could use the trustees' discretionary funds.
That could also come right out of parks.
Oh, there you go. Take it out of parks. Okay,
I'll second that.
yeah. All right, so we have a motion by Mr. Creedy and a second
Well, I
by,
think the motion
oh,
was by
was that
Matt.
Matt? All right, so motion by Matt, second by
me.
Ray, all in favor? Aye.
All right.
Hi.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Mark, just, are you done with the water part of your presentation?
Yes, just that little.
Okay, so, does it have to be shut off in the winter?
Yeah, so the water,
Who's gonna do that?
the water department. So
Oh,
they,
okay.
so they put it in, they put a system in where they can shut it off up the street, and they'll shut it off down at the field. There's a double shut off there, so it'll bleed the line, so yeah, it is all set to go. And the one addition.
And it's on their agenda?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay,
yep,
so
it'll be on their
nobody has to
schedule,
worry
you guys
about
don't have to do anything about it, I'll probably check with them every year,
it.
roughly when that would happen.
Great.
So yeah, that's all taken care of. The one addition we might make to it, and just knowing that all of the things that shouldn't be happening that happen up there, vandalism, driving around the field, I could anticipate maybe somebody realizing there's a water fountain there or a watering system and just turning it on and walking away. So we might actually, you could put a key. Yeah,
That's the
put a
key.
key lock on it, which is the only way to turn on and off.
Yeah.
I already spoke to Zach about that.
Mm.
So that's probably gonna happen relatively soon.
Okay.
The plan is set, so we did, I met with MSK about a month ago. They have a set of plans that we can move forward with. The next thing they're waiting for on that is to go before DRB, I believe.
Okay.
They thought they had a date, but didn't. DRB read his calendar wrong, so I think I don't know if they've approached yet, or
That's our zoning administrator.
is that,
I've talked to
Gotcha.
Kathy via email.
okay,
She wanted to know how to proceed with it, so I gave her the step-by-step
great.
way to do it. So
Yeah.
it's going to be through a permit. It's going to go before the DRB because you're changing contour of the field.
Yep.
It's going to involve neighbors and so forth. And it'll be a non-fee permit, just paperwork purposes.
Perfect. Thank you.
And that'll be,
Thank
It'll
you.
be in September. Okay, so that was, he said he'd get back to me, so I know roughly in September. So we're looking at, I mean, my ideal timing was possibly breaking ground in the summer or this fall. Obviously, that will not happen. So we're probably looking at sometime next year. In addition to that, they did give me a rough estimate of what they thought the cost would be. And this is minus their fee, which we paid a portion of anyway. And that came in, the bid totals for all the work itself is right around $102,000, which is a little less than we thought by early rough estimates. But they're also, then you work into mobilization fees, contingency fees and things like that. So it could move up to around the $120,000 to $130,000 mark, depending on the bids we get.
How much ARPA money did we?
I don't know what's left. I don't have a total of what we had paid in for MSK so far. I know
Yeah,
their estimate was only $7,000 to $8,000 more.
Right, and I think, if I remember correctly, I believe the earmarked amount was 125.
Oh, wow, okay.
Because we were going to use a small portion, well, not a small portion, but a portion, whatever year this gets done, of the parks money.
Okay.
because
Because,
theory
yeah,
being,
offset, yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And then there's also reserves too.
Okay,
So, but I think it was 125.
so
if I
then
remember
we're in
correctly.
fairly good shape.
Yes, as soon, I guess, you know, again, it's always tough to bid these things now in
And then do
anticipation
it
of
later,
doing it,
yeah.
because numbers just these days don't come close to staying the same. But as soon as we get everything approved, we should put it out to bid, because if there is money to be raised, I'm gonna have to do that.
Got it.
So, and when I presented all this, I committed to doing that, so. But I think we are in good shape. I don't get the updates anymore, but I know we're roughly 30,000+ in the park reserve. That's correct. I know you guys have those in front of you.
I still have it open. Let's see, Parks Reserve. Just a hair over 40.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my plan is to, I did speak to last year, a few other entities like Bennington Y. I'm always offering fields for them to use free of charge, you know, so.
Yep.
The flip side of that is, when you think about your budget, if you want to throw a little bit of money our way, just
Yep, to the parks.
anticipation of using those for the rest of the
Absolutely.
lives. So we'll see where that goes. And I certainly approach Town of Shasberry, Town of Bennington, all the neighboring towns to see if they'd be willing to throw in a few extra dollars here or there. But yeah, no, I think we're in good shape. I'll leave you the estimate they gave me. And again, that's MSK's version, so.
Yep.
You know, we're gonna get bids that could be 20,000, 30,000 less than that, and probably more that'll be 40 or 50,000 more.
Right.
So we're kind of at the mercy of whoever.
Yep.
And I will talk to Norm about who to contact to elicit some bids, and then obviously we put it out for anybody else that wanted to. I know.
Right, yeah, Norm's got a pretty good process in place.
Yeah, and I know when I spoke to the Pembrokes, at the time I spoke to them, we're interested in putting a bid in, and I know Norm mentioned a few others, so I think shouldn't have any problem getting the bids in.
Great.
Cool.
Lori, just before I forget, Lori's gonna take care of getting those gift cards and she'll get them to you.
Awesome, thank you very much, I appreciate that.
And I'd appreciate it if Doug would verify that 120,000.
Yep. I'll take a look. I think I have the sheet. If I don't, when Mary comes back, I know she has, because I believe the last two projects that are earmarked are VAE and parks. So the ARPA funds right now, we have a bit over 160,000 in there. And I believe the VAE was around 40 or 45, and I think this was around 125. Could be.
It shifted a little.
But we're done with the library.
Correct. The only, like I said, I believe the only two projects that are outstanding to use the remaining ARPA funds are our parks project and the VAE project.
Great.
Yep. But yeah, I'll take a look, Ray, and see if I have it. I'll get it out to you right away. If I don't, if Mary still has the sheet once she gets back.
Yeah, I guess it'd be better if it was sooner, so I remember what I asked.
I'll put it out exactly. I say you wanted to know this.
So that's it for the park. I did have one other thing, just as a note. My wife and I walk quite a bit over by Mile Around and come over by the barns, and that footbridge, I don't know who to talk to about that.
Oh, the historic bridge that's near my place?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those deck boards there are a few, somebody's gonna go through it. And I know I mentioned it to Park McCullough one year. I think they did it. Do we know who actually is responsible for that? Because if somebody's name is attached to that, I can step on a few of those boards
The fund,
and make them go down.
I don't know. I think that maybe the fund for North Bennington has.
I mean, I'd be happy to contact anybody. I'd hate to see somebody get hurt.
That's a historic bridge.
It is a historic bridge, so they're gonna use old names.
Bob Howe
Thank you.
made
Bob
that.
Howe,
Bob Howe would be the
but
first.
he's not going to get out there and replace those boards.
No.
I'll do the work. I just want to see it preserved and done right. But
Yeah, I don't know.
So what?
Mosley Bridge.
I believe they're like 2-inch thick, probably 2x6s.
Yeah, and they were PT.
I don't think so. They're showing quite a bit of rot. And they're about, I've never seen pressure treated rock like that. It's not underground, so I would almost guarantee it was not pressure treated.
You know, there's a product that's unfortunately not cheap on the market, which is acetylated timber, which has a 25-year life in ground contact rated. That might, but maybe we could get someone to get us.
Well, I'll try to contact Bob, just see what he thinks, because somebody should, I'd hate to say this, but if they can't fix it right away, rope it off. I mean, I walk there and run there at least 3 days a week, so I'd have to change my route, but I'd rather change my route than, seriously, it's
You have
getting.
to throw some pallets down in the creek to make people be able to go across.
Yeah. Or put a temporary something over the top of it, just to make it
That's
safe. I mean, even if you put plywood down, just so people don't go through it.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes, it wouldn't look as good, but it'd be safer. Anyway, okay,
Thank you.
thank you all, appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
All right.
Yeah.
Any other,
Motion to adjourn.
do we need an executive? No? Good.
No, you can't.
Yeah, you need a continuation.
Oh, I need to continue. We need to schedule a continuation, right. Okay, so Mayor, no, Lori,
Do we
how,
need an
yeah, how
executive
far in
session?
advance do we have to like?
You can
warn a
continue the
continuation?
meeting. No, you need to continue the meeting till
Night, Robert.
whenever, whatever works for you next week. I would do it right at the site. It's only for the chimney visit.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so,
Continue it to, we could say we'll continue the meeting to whatever date and time at the firehouse to.
make decisions.
Correct. And if
Matthew, when are you available?
I don't know.
Okay,
You tell me when.
How about next Tuesday?
what time?
6? Well, it's still.
I
light
just
out.
have a meeting here at 7, so before that is fine. No, wait, I have therapy. Like,
Oh.
I work until 6:30. I could run down at 6:30 and then run over here,
6:30, you wanna say 6:30?
maybe.
What day?
Tuesday?
Next Tuesday?
Yeah.
So it'll be the 15th.
I could also do Monday, almost any time after
I have to check something.
4.
I don't know, I'm thinking.
I can do Tuesday at 6 or 6:30.
It would have to be 6:30 and I would be running straight from,
I have to
Okay.
check what our school board meeting is because it got moved.
It's Wednesday.
Okay,
The 16th.
we're fine.
Yeah, it
Okay.
maintained the same day, just moved by a week.
Tuesday, 6:30?
Tuesday, 6:30, and then I'm gonna abandon you guys by 7 to get here.
Firehouse.
I mean,
Okay. So
Somebody,
Chris,
somebody
what's
email
on the
me.
agenda for the 15th?
So you have your motion?
Oh, yeah, motion to continue to 6:30 next Tuesday
At the firehouse.
At the firehouse.
Second.
at the firehouse, yeah.
So Laura, you have a Scott first and a Ray second for that continuation.
Thank you.
Aye.
One more week of camp, almost done.
All right, then I think we're all set.
All right,
Good job.
thank
Tara.
you all.